The sun fell heavy over Arlington, washing the white marble columns of the National Veterans Museum in a golden, unforgiving light. Outside its grand gates, a frail woman stood. Her gloved hands trembled as she held out an old, faded invitation. Edges curled, words nearly erased by time. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the young security officer said, not meeting her eyes. "This is a private event. Invite only. You're not on the list." The old woman blinked once, then twice. She didn't argue. She simply lowered her hand, nodded faintly, and turned away, her breath catching somewhere between her ribs and her heart. Inside the museum, the ceremony was about to begin. Speeches were planned. Cameras were set. But something was about to shift. Her name was Margaret Ellison, 92 years old, widow of Master Sergeant William Ellison, a war hero. Buried beneath the 7th row of Arlington's South Lawn. Margaret had never worn a uniform, but she bore the weight of one. She had lived through telegrams, folded flags, and 27 years of silence after her husband went missing in action before being discovered in a mass grave in Korea. Every Sunday, she visited the museum alone, always in the same blue coat, the one her husband had once complimented on a spring morning before deployment. The museum was more than a building to her. It was sacred ground, a place where the stories she carried in her bones could breathe. Today, she thought, would be special. She had received an invitation weeks ago, mailed mistakenly, perhaps, but to her, it felt divine. Today marked the unveiling of a new hall honoring Korean War veterans. William's name was etched on one of the new plaques. She had come to touch that plaque, not to make a scene, just to be there, just to remember. But remembrance, it seemed, was reserved for the powerful and the invited. Inside, the event buzzed with dignitaries and donors. The press swarmed around retired generals and defense contractors. Speeches were rehearsed, camera angles perfected. Brigadier General Alex Monroe, now a 4-star, stood backstage reviewing his notes. The script spoke of honor, sacrifice, and legacy, but something gnawed at him, a creeping emptiness, as if something vital was missing from this meticulously choreographed performance. Outside, Margaret sat on a bench across the street, her hands folded quietly in her lap. She watched limousines pull up. Veterans in pristine uniforms were welcomed inside with salutes and smiles that a young museum intern, perhaps 19, had noticed her. The way her eyes lingered on the doors, the way she clutched something tightly in her hand that he approached her cautiously. "Ma'am, is everything all right?" She hesitated, then handed him the invitation. He looked at it, then at her. Something about her silence unsettled him. He didn't know who she was, but she didn't belong outside that he slipped away and showed the card to his supervisor. The supervisor scoffed. "It's outdated. Probably found it in a thrift store. Just ignore her." But the intern didn't forget. Neither did the security guard who had turned her away, the same guard who now watched her from the gate, guilt creeping in. Back inside, General Monroe cleared his throat. The podium awaited him, but he paused, glancing at the crowd and then toward the entrance. The young intern, defying orders, approached the general moments before he was due to speak. Breathless, he whispered something. Just a name. Monroe froze. "Ellison." He turned away from the podium, walked briskly past the audience, down the hall, past puzzled officers and stunned aides. Cameras followed. Unsure, the general walked out of the museum, across the street, into the sunlight, toward a woman in a blue coat. Margaret looked up as Boots stopped in front of her. "Mrs. Ellison?" he asked, voice softer than anyone had ever heard it. She nodded. Slowly. "I served under your husband," he said. "He saved my life." Then he did something no one expected. He knelt, not out of duty, out of reverence. General Monroe stood and turned toward the museum steps. He pulled the earpiece from his collar. "Cancel the ceremony," he said. "Right now." A wave of silence swept through the staff. "Sir, no one speaks William Ellison's name today unless his wife is there to hear it. This isn't about politics. It's about people, about promises we make and the ones we forget." With firm resolve, he extended his arm to Margaret. "Come with me." And for the first time that day, the museum's doors opened for her. She walked beside him, slow, graceful, steady. People inside turned. Conversations halted. A hush fell over the crowd. When she entered, no music played. No speeches were read. Just a museum full of people rising to their feet in quiet honor that a young soldier saluted her. Another handed her a single white rose. She stood before the plaque that bore her husband's name, reached out, and placed her fingers gently against the cold metal. Tears welled in her eyes. But she smiled. "He made it home," she whispered. That day, the real ceremony happened not with fanfare, but with truth. One remembered the original speeches. They remembered the old woman in blue and the general who chose decency over decorum. General Monroe never returned to that podium. Instead, he started a new initiative, Project Homefront, dedicated to honoring the silent heroes, the spouses, the widows, the mothers who carried wars inside their hearts for decades. Margaret became the first civilian to receive the museum's highest honor, not because of who she was married to, but because of the quiet dignity with which she carried the legacy. The plaque remains there today. But now, beside it, is a framed photo, a four-star general kneeling before a woman in a blue coat. If this story stirred something in you, if it reminded you that true honor doesn't need an audience, then don't scroll past, share it. Let the quiet voices be heard. Subscribe if you believe the world needs more moments like this, not staged, not scripted, just real, and above all, be the reason someone still believes in goodness. Start today.